Well, it's been quite a few weeks since I made any progress on Scirocco. Just been doing other little bits and pieces and often not seeming to achieve very much. Had a visit from Thomas, Dreadnought Customs. He dropped by on the way back from picking some wheels up, and you can see the video that he shot of his visit over on his YouTube channel, which is Dreadnought Customs. And he kindly dropped off his stud welder dent pulling kit, and I'm going to see if I can get some of the dents and the crease out of the sill. I've had a little play with the kit, fixed a problem with the slide hammer, and I managed to remove the majority of the jacking damage from the rails that are underneath the driver and passenger floor pans. Anyone who knows a Scirocco or Mark 1 Golf will know the bits I'm talking about. They're just behind the rear mountings for the front wishbones. Anyway, I'm struggling for room in terms of camera positioning, so I don't know how well this is going to go in terms of being able to show you what's going on, but I'll see what I can do. You see, I've cleaned some areas back to bare metal. This is quite a shallow little elongated dent. I'm tripping over the stud welder. This one's got more of a sharp depression and a bit of a crease. This one you can see. I'll try and catch lightings in different directions to try and give you an indication of the shape. This is just some mild pitting that I've cleaned up. This one is fairly significant with a crease here and a crease here. It's obviously buckled in, and you can see the crease carries back. It's really quite sharp in here. Now, I'm not going to try and go for a perfect job. I don't have the experience or skills, but if I can remove the majority of this so that only minor filling will be required to restore the shape, then I'll be happy. I just didn't want to have to fill this depth of depression. So I'll start on one of the minor ones up here. You want to put the, if it's a small circular type dent, you might get away with putting one stud in the middle and pulling it. I've always removed damage by working from the outside in. That's, you know, remove the damage in almost the order it reverse order it went in, and the sharpest creases is at the edges of the dent, so you want to be pulling nearer the edge, and then the middle tends to take care of itself to a large extent. So we'll try and get it set up, weld a couple of studs on here, and see if we can pull this out. Okay, so this is the stud welder. It's pretty heavy because it's got a substantial transformer in it. Has a sprung loaded tip, which is the center electrode into which you load the studs. These are often called a pulling nail. So you place that in, and this outer ring is your ground electrode, and that needs to make contact with the surrounding metal, and then the current will flow through the stud or nail and weld it on. And this is a nail I've actually used multiple times. I've found if you get your timing right, you can get a weld that's strong enough to do the pulling, but then you can twist the nail off and reuse it. If you weld for longer, you're not going to get the stud off. You're going to have to cut it and then grind it back. and potentially, if you've got more work to do, clean things up and obviously go through a lot of nails. So I think we're all set up, and I'll find where I want to put this. Get lined up. And grab hold of the slide hammer. Now there are a lot of these stud welders on eBay these days, quite cheaply. One's very similar to the style of this Sealy one. And what seems to let a lot of them down is the slide hammer, and more particularly the collet, or the gripping arrangement that goes on the stud. And this one is definitely superior to what I'm seeing of the others. It actually uses a set of 3 jaws, very much like a drill chuck, with serrated internals, and they're sprung loaded forward, and the action of pulling tightens them. So to get them to release, you have this threaded collar, and as you tighten it down, it forces the collets back inside, loosening them up, so you can slide them onto the stud. You just screw it forward, and that's now gripping. So I can take the hammer and just, both looking and feeling what's going on. Now it doesn't matter if I over pull a little, because I can always hammer a high spot down. And now I'll just tighten it in, and it comes off. And that seems to have brought that up quite nicely. So I'm going to take a pair of nail pliers, or nail pulling pliers, and if I grab the stud, and I got the weld about right, and I can reuse that again. I'm just going to file the end to restore a good contact surface. See that weld might have been not quite as strong as it could have been. I may have not given it quite enough time on the trigger, but actually that's pulled out enough that I can tap it back. So I'm going to do at least one more. I'm making life slightly more difficult for myself for the purposes of filming, because I'm working a little bit left-handed. That's okay. It's not perfect, but that's definitely an improvement. I've got very localised high spots that will knock down very easily with the when I sand them. So yeah, that's okay. Like I say, there's a very localised little high spot. Let me zoom in here. So you can see there's like a silver spot, the heat affected zone. Right in the middle, there's a very sharp raised pip that can get sanded back. Then the actual high spots that where I've overpulled it slightly, you can just get planished down, and that looks pretty good. So I'll move on to the next one down the line. It's not the best tripod. This one is definitely here much sharper. So let's see what we can do with the next one. yeah, I'm reasonably pleased with that. I mean, these are the more shallow areas. They kind of need to run them over with the sanding disc, do a little bit of planishing, and it may be that I come back and I pull them a little more to get them better. But at the moment I'm reasonably happy with those, and I'm going to go on to work on the worst damage further back, but as I go further back I've got less and less room for the camera, so I'll probably work on those areas off camera and maybe bring you back and show you the result. Well, I've been over all of these areas now, and particularly back here where the crease was quite deep. It's really looking pretty good. And I've still got a little bit of a low in here that I'm going to do some more work on. But this area's come up really nice. All of these spot welds are high, and I just knocked some of these back a little bit with a file, and then I'll planish them down. And overall, I am very happy with how that has all gone.